And I mean, but another thing I wanted to talk to you about before we go over anything else and before we get any new information, Kimberly, I want Kimberly to get some of her stuff back. Unless you can think of a reasonable explanation for me as to why she doesn't have it back already. I kind of thought that was implied when I said you need to start being nicer to Kimberly.
Well, we've been staying, as you know.
I know you've been staying away, but you still have her car, and it's been a month, and she just doesn't have her. She still doesn't have her phone. She doesn't have her cameras. There's a lot of stuff that you have for, you know, whatever reason. To me, I can't think of a reasonable explanation as to why you still have it, especially since most of it wasn't involved. But yeah, at a minimum, before we talk about any more new information, her car, get her car back, her phone, so she can get her contacts off of it, and at least one of her cameras. There were 2 cameras that she had that were hers that I've honestly never really even used, and they were taken in the search warrant. Get those back to her too.
I mean, I guess I don't know that any of them. Was it easy to have a relationship with, say, Kimberly and be, or did it become harder? Or it seems like it would be extremely difficult to maintain.
Kind of the 2 lives that you talked about.
It only got hard at the end, but it wasn't the relationship. It was, everything got harder at the end. Just lost interest. It was like I simultaneously lost interest in a lot of other things, and tried to kickstart it and get it back. Kind of snapped myself out of it a few times, and then just couldn't maintain it anymore.
So it wasn't like the typical relationship breakdown. It was you.
Oh yeah, it was.
Do you think over the years, any of the people that you were with, Kimberly or whoever, or Tammy or whoever before, do you think any of them had any ideas about
No.
the other side of you?
I imagine 20/20 hindsight, they might remember some stuff, but can't remember any time where there was any question as to what I was or who I was.
Maybe questions about where you were, but not necessarily.
There were some questions about where I had been, but I always, like I say, I usually plan things so that I had, they sounded like good reasons, excuses to me, and nobody ever really called me on them, so I don't know.
And I know at one point in time you told us that Kimberly was oblivious to, you use that word, I think, to what was going on and stuff. Do you think that there was, when you met her, was there some type of attraction like that you perceived that it would be an easy relationship to carry on because she wouldn't be suspicious? Was Tammy the same way? I've never met Tammy. I have Kimberly, but not.
No. There's there's certain personality types that I would work harder at having a relationship with because they would have like Kimberly, for example. She has a pretty hectic career and she has her own social life, and she's, I guess you'd say, like a self-contained person, so we had a good relationship, but it was easy to separate myself from it and go do my own thing, and then, you know, she would do her own thing. And both of us were always okay with that, whereas, you know, some other personality types, you know, it's like once you're together, it's like everything has to be done together, and that would have made it kind of hard, you know. But, you know, like with Kimberly and the girlfriend I had before her, they had their own careers and stuff, so if I said, well, I'm going to fly such and such a place and do this and that, and they would say, okay. And there was never this, well, I want to come with you, you know. It's like they wouldn't do that because they had a job, you know.
So was there a relationship between Tammy and Kimberly?
Not really, you know, just there was a little bit of drama at one point, but no, there wasn't a relationship. No.
Was that somebody in Washington?
You're asking if they knew each other? Or?
No. I'm asking who it is.
If you dated,
Was there
who you
somebody
dated?
else? Because you said another girlfriend.
Yeah, for a while.
Who was that?
Her name was Denise. She had family in Nia Bay, and she lived in Kent, down by SeaTac or something.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember her last name?
Han.
On?
Did you date a lot?
Not really. I usually had a girlfriend, but I didn't, you know.
Were they more kind of just long-term relationships? It wasn't just a lot of short relationships.
Yeah, I mean, there were periods in between where I would date a few people, but for the most part, it was, you know, longer term the better. That all looks like the stuff that I got out of that house. And,
Okay.
what did you say it was, Alito, or I thought it was Alto? Alito?
Alito.
Anyway, that house,
Yeah.
that house that burned. Yeah.
Okay. It all looks like stuff that.
Yeah,
Came
I
out.
thought it was in a separate bag in the fanny pack, but if it was just stuffed in there, then I must have dumped it out in there. I don't know.
Okay. When we initially found it, it was all right in here.
Oh.
It was, and then we put it in here just so it wouldn't fall out. So
Maybe that's what it was.
in the front side.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think jewelry-wise, there's not anything else in Kimberly's house that is related to anything aside from that. That stuff wasn't even supposed to be in Kimberly's house.
You mind if we
Yeah,
go through it just to be sure? Because I don't. Kimberly actually handed this to us because the downstairs, like Jeff said, everything's clear out of the downstairs.
She'd probably come across it.
So
Right.
just to make sure, we'll go through everything else that nothing came out of here that you recognize it's in mixed with other stuff.
Right, that's a pretty remote possibility that she would have taken anything out of that. She would recognize that as mine, and she's not the type that would remove anything from it, especially in light of what's happened. So.
Did she ever ask you about that stuff, like where it came from?
I
or?
doubt she'd ever seen it.
Till now, yeah. Till she's.
Right, because it wasn't even supposed to.
Was this not in it?
Oh, thank
And I think that's the impression we got too, because when we mentioned it, she went and got it. She knew she had come across it to packing your stuff up.
you. Thought that one was interesting.
That one I bought.
You have a couple of them.
Yeah, it was part of a Halloween costume.
No significance to anything?
Aside from my general interest.
All right. That's not the whale one. I thought this was the whale one.
I don't recognize that at all. That must be hers.
Okay.
Most of her jewelry I thought I would recognize, but she does have stuff that she never wears, you know, that she just has kicking around. That is hers.
Okay. Does she, jumping back a little bit, have you ever talked with her about the careers? Kimberly? Does she know anything about the couriers from you?
Since my arrest?
Yeah.
No.
Or even prior to your
No,
arrest? Not,
certainly not prior, but I mean, since then, you know, when the story came out on the news, she brought it up,
okay.
but no, I never told her anything specific.
Okay.
I've always been very vague.
Was she left with the... I'm thinking about this just because she's probably going to ask me questions, so I want to be careful about what I say also. Was she left with the impression from you that it was just something you didn't want to talk about, or that you were involved somehow, or...
Well, from her perspective, the only thing she knows is that there's a reporter in Vermont that is saying I'm connected to it.
Okay.
That's all that there's been in the news,
Okay.
as far as I know.
Did you...
It's never been confirmed by
No.
anyone.
No, I'm wondering if you confirmed it, if you had any conversation with her
No,
confirming
no.
it.
The only thing
Okay.
I think I've said openly is that, yeah, I've been, you know, they all know I have property in New York, and I've told them several times, yeah, I've driven through that area several times. I've stayed in hotels
Okay.
there.
Okay.
Aside from that, I don't recognize that at all. No, don't recognize it.
Recognize it?
That was Laney's.
Looks like it's just chain with a...
That sapphire stuff is Kimberly's. I don't know about the pearls.
Okay.
I know that sapphire stuff is hers.
Okay. This, it looks like it's a set with the earrings and the...
Right, and the
Then-
ring and the
yep.
necklace, yeah.
Okay.
She had that before I met her.
I think that might be... Well, so, got two of those. I think that's it for jewelry. Okay, so from what you can tell, everything's in this bag. From what?
Yeah, that's the only thing I...
Okay.
Were you a pirate that year? Or we did think that was a little ironic when we came across that, a couple of them.
Oh, it was a pretty innovative design.
We even counted.
So did I.
I thought you might. So you got that in like 2010.
All right. Trying to think if there was anything else from the search that was like significant that we should show you. I can't think of anything. I mean, like I said, there were things that some of the things that we took that I talked about already with Kimberly, and we're giving them right back to her. Some of the travel receipts and that kind of stuff that she needs for taxes. Obviously, we have no need to screw up her taxes or no desire to do that. So
Right.
we copied whatever stuff we needed, and then I'll give that back to her.
When you say traveler, I thought everything I had was in that filing cabinet. You already had the filing
Yeah,
cabinet, right?
yeah, we have the file cabinet from when you told us we could take that a few months
Right.
ago. No, there was some other stuff too. There was some stuff mixed in with her stuff, mixed in with like her tax records, and I think maybe even some of your tax.
You
stuff
might have missed
in
some
there.
write-offs.
So,
Yeah, I never was too concerned.
So,
but regardless, it's going back. It's not anything.
All right.
I mean, we know she's upset about the thing, but we're trying to make it as, she just wants the whole thing to be over, I'm sure, but she doesn't understand the gravity of it, and so.
Right.
Any other questions about?
No.
What we took? Okay. Yeah, and unfortunately, like Jeff said, we don't have to go through it again, but we were in the position that we were in, pushing back as long as we could push back, and then they didn't Our bosses
Time
tend
of
not to
year,
view
this
progress
is,
the
you know,
same way that we're viewing progress.
They've been pushing it for, since
Yeah.
we've really made good progress. And then when the time you came in, we talked about Green River, Wyoming a little bit. That was encouraging to them, so that delayed it. And then they just saw us stall again. So every time they were seeing stalling, we've been trying to be upfront with you and telling that with the reality. And we know what you've also told us is that you've told us what was there, and we weren't going to find any more and those kind of things. But
Right.
and we relayed all that, but.
I don't have a list yet from the agents that were in New York, but as soon as I get that, we'll go over that with you too. I don't.
Well, that'll be a walk down memory lane.
After you and Tammy broke up, Lainey was living with Tammy, right?
No.
Was she staying with you?
Yeah.
Oh, she was. Okay. Did Tammy was it a setup visitation, or was it just because you were so close that it just whenever she wanted to go?
No, I got custody. I had legal custody of Laney while I lived on the reservation.
Okay.
Tammy was, she was in and out of treatment and stuff, so.
Okay.
I mean, as Tammy described it, when she was going through the issues with her drug addiction and stuff, I mean, it sounded like it was pretty terrible and stressful, probably for you and Lainey. Was that ever a trigger for you to, just the stress of all that to, go out and do something? Or was that a non-factor?
Well, yes and no. That caused me more problems locally because that was a new thing for me to be in a situation that I wasn't in control of. Like with Tammy, near the end of our relationship, I wasn't in control of the situation. It was out of control. So, I was out driving in Nia Bay one night. I drank too much and got pulled over. I should have got a DUI that night. Anyway, the sheriff never showed up, so they just held me in Nia Bay for the night jail. And they let me dry out. Anyway, so there was some issues like that. There was at least one time I remember she called the cops on me, and I was pissed off about that. So there was, there were some issues with that. But no, for the most part, I was. It was easier. Tammy was, when we were living together, she was a lot nosier than I was used to, so she would keep track of what I was doing online or whatever, where I was going, so.
How about when you started like a new relationship, like when you first met Kim, did that, the excitement of being in a new relationship and stuff like that, did that, I guess, make it easier not to do something?
Yeah, I've had lots of distractions along the way. It's like one hobby after another with me.